I want to say just how grateful I am to Lee and Cryon for all of these beautiful messages we continue to receive. But I'd like to share something with you that is a little expose about Lee and some of the things that he gets involved with. Because you see, Lee has been an integral part of a work that is outside of his passion with Cryon, but not really. And it's called the Pineal Tones and the respective choirs in which they were all presented. It really is a great story, and perhaps it's never been told or revealed in the way that we are going to do it tonight. Because with us right now is Dr. Todd Ovakaitis, DNA pioneer researcher, respected scientist, and also the creator of the Pineal Tones choirs.
I'd like to introduce Todd in a very special way, although tonight's subject and stories about Todd's amazing choirs and the very last performance coming up this year, Monica and I can't ignore who really is sitting next to us at this moment. He's an amazing scientist who right now is starting to get the accolades that both Cryon and I have felt is coming and eventually would be here, and they are. So please be patient with this very short, abbreviated version of what should be a lot longer that the scientist he is, and then we'll move on to the esoteric part of Dr. Todd's work, which is the tones. Dr. Todd Ovakaitis is a renowned bioscientist, Johns Hopkins trained medical doctor, researcher, and inventor, whose groundbreaking work in the field of stem cell research has had a significant impact on the understanding and application for anti-aging and rejuvenation. He is the inventor of a laser resonance technology that has pioneered the field of stem cell therapy to reverse aging and restore health. This technology holds enormous potential for improving patient care in all areas.
Dr. Todd regularly sits with the Da Vinci 50 Mastermind Group. It's the highest level masterminds in the world, and their focus is singularly on scientific rejuvenation and regenerative medicine. Now, Todd was contacted and is working with NASA to help plan how humans can exist in a closed environment as they travel to and from the planet Mars. Last month, Lee and I tried to contact him about details of tonight's program, and he was busy speaking to a group in the Vatican. And then we tried to contact him a few days later, where he was in Brazil speaking to another large group. So you can see that he is in great demand, and we're really lucky to grab him between meetings around the world. Not only is he curing people of incurable diseases, but he himself is the poster child for energy and health.
With all of that and the huge story of what his pioneering research means to humanity and to the rejuvenation process in general, there is another side of who Dr. Todd Ovakaitis is. So tonight, it's that other side that we're going to work with. But some of you are already getting excited and saying, wait, I want to know about the rejuvenation and the anti-aging. Well, I don't blame you. I assure you that we are going to get him right back here in this very studio, hopefully in September, to talk all about this rejuvenation invention that he has, on all the discoveries he's made, and what all this fuss is about. But right now, here in this particular program, we want to talk about this remarkable work he is doing, that he did and has continued, that has changed everything, even in my life, called Pineal Tones. So, before we go any further, I want to welcome our good friend and guest for this evening, Dr. Todd Ovakaitis. Hello, Todd.
Hey, Lee and Monica.
So excited you're finally here in the studio.
I've been waiting for this anointed day.
I mean, most of the reason Todd is here is because his company and his home is in the San Diego area. So that's why he's able to join us here and be live. So just hold on a minute, because Dr. Todd, we're going to ask you some very basic elemental questions in just a moment about the choir. But before we do that, we want to show everyone what we're talking about. Wow. I want you to just view this for a moment and figure this out. This is the first choir, the Lemurian Choir, held in Hawaii in 2012. And there's a lot of questions you might ask that going on right here, and we're going to get to the answers of some of those, but just take a look. The first, perhaps the only thing I want you to see right now and know is this is not the full choir. That's all that would fit in there. This is half the choir. 900 showed up for this event, and we were only able to fit 450 at a time, and so there were 2 complete performances. So this was only one half of what happened. Now, I want to give every one of you an experience with the pineal tones and all that's going to happen. And Todd's just going to sit here patiently while we do this. I'm going to play 4 live choir performance videos with a very short explanation between each one of them. So I'm going to ask you a favor. Right now, I invite you to envision yourself with these choirs singing ancient tones that begin to awaken our star families, almost as if to say, we made it. And we are ready for the next level. This is the reason for these pineal tones, folks, as remembered by Dr. Todd and what he has given us to sing. So this first video is a tribute to the choir. As you'll see, our dear and late friend Kahuna Kale opened most of the choirs in this very same manner with the sacred chants that she knew from her Hawaiian lineage. After Kale, you'll see the choir sing Pineal Tones 9 and 3 together. So I want you to enjoy and experience this first Pineal Tones. Hopefully you haven't heard it before, and you'll start to understand there's energy here for you. Please listen and feel that energy of what is really happening in this video. And remember that the tones are sacred and forever. But you're hearing them sung for the first time on the planet in this way in Hawaii back in 2012.
Aloha na kua, aloha na auma kua, aloha na li'i, aloha na kupuna, aloha na makua, aloha ka lehu lehu, aloha ye. E ho mai kai ke mai luna mai e, ho na mea huna no e au, ho na mele e ho mai, e ho mai, e ho mai, e ho mai kai ke mai luna mai e, ho na mea huna no e au, ho na mele e ho mai, e ho mai, e ho mai, e ho mai kai ke mai luna mai e, ho na mea huna no e au, ho na mele e ho mai, e ho mai, e ho mai,
Yeah.
Did you like that? This is profound stuff, and Todd's going to talk a little more about it. I would like to play for you. I'd like to pray for you. I'd like to do all those things. See, you got me going. I want you to hear one of the most popular levels. This is level 24. Here's a very short portion. We wanted you to see something that's called the victory song. It's not necessarily a pineal level, but it was very important. You'll find out maybe a little later how it was obtained and where we got it from. It was sung in Bulgaria. You'll like it. Here's one more short portion, I'm including, this is from a musician, wonderful musician called In Thai. Often Todd puts musicians along with these choirs, teaches the choirs perhaps a way to accompany them just for variety and some beauty that you don't expect. Okay, enough of that. Wow, that's the experience for now. So there's some questions.
So I'm sure this took you on a trip down memory lane, Todd, as it did for me. But my question is, how did all of this start? How you can share that with our audience, and why did you choose Hawaii in 2012?
The last thing I ever thought I would be doing as a Johns Hopkins trained medical doctor was singing on stage. Much less, there was a time when people actually said, I needed to sell these recordings. It was almost like my duty to do that. It was quite amazing, A, that people would want to hear me sing, and B, much less want a recording of it. It all really starts with a cry-on story. And that was doing one of our life extension seminars in San Diego, and as a grand finale, when Lee was available, we would have him join to do a channel at the end. And it goes back to a parable, which a man woke up one morning, this giant block of granite was in the backyard. He was completely perplexed. No machine was big enough to take it away, and he hired a sculptor. And the sculptor created the most beautiful work of art the world had ever seen. The crying explanation is that our DNA is like that. That already in our DNA is everything we need for complete and total mastery, but it was blocked, like the granite, with what he described as an 8-dimensional filter. And if you follow along with the 12-stranded concept in the Quiet Book about each of the strands, that 4 of the strands were unblocked, meaning a more ordinary 4-dimensional reality, but the 8 were blocked above that with what he described as an 8-dimensional filter. And like you, my first question was, well, if this filter is preventing access to all this magnificence, how do we clear it? And a few weekends later, I did an afternoon meditation to visualize the filter, and I spontaneously began to create tones. And just like you've seen images of resonance where if things hit the right note, they vibrate, I saw this resonance build in the filter till it hit a certain catalytic point, and it transmitted the energy of the filter into the power to activate the strands. And that became level 1 of the Pineal Tones, which came with an affirmation, no less, that I, as a being, am eternally pure and perfect, and that anything other than perfection is merely the illusion of this experiment of our experience. So it begins with the intention, remembering your divine eternal perfection. And then every month or so, I would remember another and another. And that's where the whole system began.
And I believe that you had about 16 tones by the time Cryon then started telling you more information about the tones. Do you want to share that with us?
Going back in the history, it was all cycles of 8s. After the 8th level, we had a crying event in Moscow, and with 1 week's notice, we had 300 people gathered for a session where instead of sharing 8 levels over 2 days, I shared it over a few hours. And that's where Cryon first described that this was my mining the Akash to remember these tones as I'd done them in Lemuria. And even though I had temples of rejuvenation at my beck and call, since I was the architect of them, that I was able to stay in a very youthful body a very long time just using the tones I just shared, and that was just 8 levels. And that the people in the room that day would live longer lives for having been there. And then it was at level 16 where there was the Cryon channel at another event in San Diego where he said 16 levels is great, but there's actually 24. You need to remember 8 more. And he took us to a place 26,000 years ago where there were 800 singers, 400 on each side. He said they're much more powerful if they're done in pairs. It greatly amplifies it. And there was the admonition to remember the remaining 8, but also how they paired together and how they were sequenced.
All right, so we put together, I remember we sitting down in my living room, putting together, said, we ought to do this. We have to do this publicly. We have to invite everybody, and you have to remember all of them. Do you remember the phrase that Cryon used about how well you remembered it?
The biggest compliment during the first choir, and to put it in perspective, there was this 2-year journey of remembrance and then pairing and then recording and creating rehearsal tapes and gathering people with this question, is this going to sound at all good? And what was remarkable is after the first section, the Cryon comment was we were shockingly accurate at recreating a Lemurian choir.
Okay, I want to do something now. I want to walk through the photos of the choirs over the years, and just have I want everybody to see it. I want you to have maybe a brief comment. Why are these people wearing different colors?
Well, it was a designer question. It had to do with there being 2 main constructs for the way the tones work together, and that they're often done on certain musical intervals. So we have a fundamental choir and a more harmonic choir. And we chose colors for each location that were indicative of something that was either royal or spiritual. And in Hawaii, the royal colors are the red and gold. So that's why we picked the red for the fundamental and the gold for the harmonic choir.
All right, so let's begin our little journey. The choir after this one, the very next year, was in Cancun, Mexico, and it was called the Compassion Choir. Anything you want to say about that?
This was at this amazing resort. It was a beautiful experience. And we moved more into the energy of the Mayan civilization, which was in the Mayan Riviera. So we had local shamans provide their energy as opposed to the Hawaiian heritage that was done in Maui. And what was unique was that for the first time we did levels past level 24, which was the recreation of the first Lemurian choir. So we're getting actual new information beyond what was performed in the ancient days.
Here's another one, Mount Shasta, one of our favorite places in 2014. It was called the Divine Celebration Choir.
Mount Shasta was amazing. There's such a power in the mountain itself, and there's a whole lore of the civilization in the mountains, the Lemurians that went interdimensional are still alive today in the mountain, in a city described as Telos. So there's that powerful Telosian background. And what was especially remarkable is we had a production company film this professionally and make a whole meditation tape of this choir. So that was powerful in the energy, unique in that this was filmed in a very professional way, and it's one of the best pieces we have in terms of a video meditative representation of the experience.
Moving on to one of my favorite places, maybe I'm biased.
Maybe.
Because I've been here more than once, and once before the choir, and of course this is Australia. This is home for Monica. Now this particular place is not home. This is in the middle of Australia. The Red Centre, they call it. They used to call it Ayers Rock, now officially called Uluru, the Creation Choir.
This has to do with the power of the indigenous energy, and they talk about the civilization going back tens of thousands of years, even at a time that predates what we talk about with Lemuria. And there is strong connection to the Star Mother energy, particularly the Seven Sisters. And we saw some of the paintings in the caves where the Seven Sisters are represented. So it really goes back to the deepest roots of human civilization.
I remember this choir. This was very special for me. Now, here's something. This is a choir. Look at the attendance of this choir. It was not scheduled. I'll call it the unscheduled choir in that same year of 2015 in Israel, in Tel Aviv. It's not even on a node or a null or any special sacred place that was listed. And here, what happened that you would have this take place?
It was, I'm not even sure how it happened. It just did. It was mostly related to our organizer, Elon, who has such strong roots in Israel and has a large connection with the spiritual community. And there was so much interest in anchoring an energy of balance and peace in the area that we decided, as long as so many people were going to be there in the context of a crying event, that we would create a special invitation. And I was personally astounded that we had so many people from so many countries that are participating in that energy of creating peace.
Yeah, very, very special. Into 2016, we have the Mount Ida Hot Springs, Arkansas, the Crystalline Choir. Why was it called the Crystalline Choir?
Well, this was amazing and something I didn't realize until this particular conference was held, that Mount Ida is the world's largest underground mountain of quartz crystal. It is one giant, massive crystal resonator, so what a great way to amplify a vibration.
Notice the purple and blue. Was that, that's kind of crystalline colors?
Exactly. Well,
it's also DNA, isn't it?
What's exactly? A thin film crystal of DNA has the colors magenta and turquoise.
Oh, okay. Chamonix, France. We traveled there. I'd never been there before. Mont Blanc, the Quantum Choir. Why did we call it the Quantum Choir?
Well, because we had an amazing tour. The only time I've actually ever been to CERN with the Large Hadron Collider and the cyclotron systems that they have and all the experimentation that we do. Greg Braden was there to share his profound information. So it was in the spirit of moving deep into the quantum experimental realm that we named this the Quantum Choir.
Moving to 2018, Glastonbury. Look how well attended in the UK this is. This is the 2018 Avalon Choir.
Well, this was fun. This is getting all into the Arthurian legend, Glastonbury, and all the lore and tales around that. The red chalice and the white chalice, all the symbolism there. And this was especially powerful with the group that gathered and the location that we gathered. It was the only time we actually did the two most complex levels, which are 27 and 28 together, with a group that had worked really hard to master that 13-minute, very complex piece. So there are many things that were unique about it.
Now we move to 2019. Now this is the choir in the Rila Mountains of Bulgaria. This is the choir that sang the victory song that you heard earlier, or a portion of it that you got to listen to. And this is significant to me because right before COVID, and everything stopped after 2019. So we didn't get to do a 20 choir, 21 choir. What do you remember specifically about Rila Mountain?
Well, it was called the Wisdom Choir because the capital of Bulgaria is Sofia, and Sof is the root word meaning wisdom, so it felt quite appropriate. And Bulgaria isn't typically recognized as a profoundly spiritual spot, but the energy was amazing. And the debut of the victory song was quite beautiful and profound there. And the concept of the victory song, it's what a planet sings when it achieves an enlightenment status. And the whole idea is almost like time travel, that if you sing the victory song now, it's creating that desirable future at a time sooner on the timeline that would otherwise occur.
Okay, now we go to the soonest we could do another choir after COVID was 2022. And there's a story about this because this had ended up back in Cancun, Mexico. Wasn't scheduled that way. What happened there?
Well, the final choir was actually scheduled for 10/10/2020. And it's a play of the universe because now we're at the 12th choir in 12 years on 12/12/24. There were so many challenges. We had to move the first choir because people couldn't even travel in the early days of COVID. Then we moved it to 2/22/22, but then there were still challenges with movement. Then ultimately, we were going to do it in Hawaii because that was a logical point for the final choir, but we added this one because there were so many restrictions on going to Hawaii at that time with what was required with visas and vaccine requirements and so forth, that we went to a friendly place, but it was also, in a way, retracing our steps, doing the second last choir where we did the second choir.
Okay, so we get to the last one, which of course hasn't happened yet. There's one more coming, the last one in the series after 12 years. Significance, where exactly will it be and when?
Well, part of the story that we haven't shared, when Cryan described that we were shockingly accurate, which was very satisfying to all of us that had worked very hard to make it possible, much less as well attended as it was also that we had turned the key in the lock. And what he meant by that is we had made available what were described as 12 nodes, a type of time capsule of information to going to an enlightenment status for a planet. And each of the 12 nodes had a corresponding null, with the node being a point of intensification of the crystalline grid and a node being a very weak crystalline grid, a type of battery, a set of potentials. And after the first choir, Cryan described all the locations of the 12 nodes and nulls, but not how they paired. And only one choir after another, the first was from Maui to the Tibet Mountains in Chad, we had to wait choir by choir till the whole pattern was revealed, and some were actually activated by Kale, who brought the energy of the first choir to places like Lake Titicaca. But now all 12 nodes and null pillars are identified, and my understanding from Cryan is that the function of this next choir is to integrate and activate the whole system as an engine of accelerated planetary clearance, where the collective suffering of thousands of years of humanity are gathered in the nulls and brought to the nodes that are like mini plasma field suns to burn it away. So part of it is a planetary experience, and Cryan also describes, and this gets very esoteric, a dormant, invisible, interdimensional 24th chromosome pair. And we can only imagine what magic resides in something that powerful as an activator, enhancer of the whole system. And this became somewhat available recently, including the last choir and some of the other things Cryan has done. This is making it available to all of humanity, as I understand it.
Also, from my standpoint, don't you find it interesting we're going back to the same hotel in the same room?
I know.
Where it was done before.
It's so amazing.
The same place, yeah. So it really is a return. So, but come activate your 24th pair. Now, I've got one more photo to show everybody. What is happening here? I'll tell you, this is when Cryan is talking, not me, but Cryan is talking to Todd. He always sits in a chair, every choir, there's something that Cryan tells him. What's going on?
So, at the end of each choir, the final piece, and the structure of the choirs is that it begins with a short Cryan channel. There is a segment of the choir in another Cryan channel, and it's interspersing the choir and channels. And there's a final channel, after the choir is complete, and that's when I get my next assignment. And as Cryan says, you don't have to do it, but I know you will.
And he always has. And those assignments are like the victory song. I think that was an assignment.
That was an assignment.
There was one assignment to write the lullaby that you heard from your star mother. That was another assignment. So there's more here.
Absolutely. And you had a taste of the pineal tones from the videos that Lee played for you earlier on. But there's another component that Todd brings to the pineal tone work. And I want to premise this by asking a question from Todd. Is it true that you stuck your head upside down in the ocean and tried to communicate with the whales?
Do I have to admit it?
Yes, you did. Yeah, because we know you did. Sorry.
Well, there's a little more backstory.
I hope so.
We'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
The 14th level has 7 parts, and the final part has a flavor like the song of the whales, and that inspired what I describe as a cellular telepathic communication to be physically with the whales in the water. And within 2 weeks, I was in Maui, diving to the bottom of the ocean and suspended upside down, hanging on a rock, because when the humpback whales sing, it's very weird. They point their heads to the bottom of the ocean floor and their tails are up. So I was mimicking their position. And I wasn't so much communicating, but listening, not just with my ears, but literally feeling it in all the cells of my body. And after 4 days, I would call it a total body cellular recording of the experience. So when I sing the whale tones, it's not just a vocal process, it's a total body vibrational recreation.
Wow.
And then the next question from that is, what part do those whale tones play with the pineal tones and I guess for all of humanity?
For many people, the whale tone section is the most profound part of the choir. And it is technically the 15th level of the tones, and it's generally the only one where I will sing it as a solo. Sometimes I invite the other choristers to join in. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, as inspired. And it has to do with the nature of the whale song itself, which, as one Gaia channel presented, is the closest thing we have to fifth dimensional music on the planet. And as Cryan describes, if you get to the fifth dimension, it opens all the others. So it's about opening the dimensions.
So, question. Someone in the audience is watching, so inspired by everything we've shared, loved the tones. And if someone says to you, Dr. Todd, I don't think I can sing, but I'd love to be part of the choir, is it still something for me?
Well, one of the most amazing and I think glowing attributes of the choir is that so many people have found their voice with it because they felt they can't sing or they don't sing well. But the nature of singing in this way is that almost everyone can do it well. And the biggest Cryan point about it, unlike, say, being a musician in a symphony where it's about the precision of the notes, here it's about the precision of the intention.
So if you have the intent,
Yeah.
you will have the tone. That's beautiful.
Believe it or not, we are almost at the end. The last one's coming up. How do you feel?
Well, this final choir has really been a struggle. It's been literally 4 years delayed from when we initially had it. Maybe because it's supposed to be the 12th choir in a 12-year cycle, which makes the synchronicities of the numbers ideal. There's a feeling that in many ways this will transcend the previous choirs. There's the feeling that the 12th choir, like the 12th pineal tone, that one tone had all the energy of the previous 11 and more. I've got a feeling that this choir is going to be like that, that it's going to shift everything to another level. This may be the most important one for the whole planetary experience. I think certainly profound personally. And this is the last opportunity to experience a choir of this type. There may be other types of things we do with the tones in the future, and it may well be the case, it's probably the case, that there'll never be a choir like this again.
I agree, and I can already feel the potency of this choir being a fast-track system of working with our chromosome DNA pair, the 24th pair, as well as the planetary system of spiritual intervention that was placed as time capsules in the planet by the Pleiadians. And there's a galactic communication that happens as well. There are so many profound experiences that the choristers have shared with me over the last 12 years. And even participants whose spouse is in the choir and they come on the performance day just to sit in the back of the room, they are also deeply affected by the choir.
Yeah, it's hard to say goodbye. And we know we're going to lose you here because you have to leave, but there's a break coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But very quickly, do you have a feeling from Cryon about the importance of this event?
It's the same feeling, excuse me. I get choked up thinking that it'll be the last one. We have been through a very profound 12 years with you.
Amazing.
Amazing. So I think that Cryon would echo what you said. It's going to be different. It's going to be profound, and I'm going to be there.
Yeah, I feel it's a...
I hope so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a divine appointment,
Yeah.
and I feel that those who come, it's also a divine appointment as well. So thank you so much, Todd, for taking time in your busy schedule to come and visit with us and share all that beautiful information.
Well, always a pleasure and honor, and so exciting to be creating this matrix of experience with you.
Thanks, my friend.
Wonderful. Okay, everyone, we are going to take a short break. Perhaps that's the perfect time to go and sign up for the choir. And then we will see you back here soon for the Circle of 12.